We should do Zappa and Johnny Cash on the same day.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Listography for side 3 of Bruce Springsteen week. We ranked his albums, we gave our top 10 favorite songs. For side 3, we were thinking about a lot of different video ideas and topics we could discuss, but then we started thinking, he's got all these huge albums in his catalog, like Born to Run and Born in the USA, and he always seemed to follow those huge albums up with something really strong as well. Darkness following Born to Run, The River following Darkness, Tunnel of Love following Born in the USA. So we decided for this video to talk about our favorite follow-ups, albums that came after records that seemed unfollowable.
Yeah, and in some of these cases, better for me.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a whole list going. I just got a big plethora of ones to talk about, but this was fun. Jason, you want to start this one off, or what do you want?
I can start off, sure.
You make the call, boss.
So we're not limiting our follow-ups to sophomore albums, but I thought that was kind of an obvious place to start looking. We just did our video on great debuts, so I looked at those bands that we talked about and took a look at what their sophomore efforts were like. For me, I like Pinkerton better than Weezer's Blue album. I like In It for the Money better than I Should Coco by Supergrass. I like Recovering the Satellites at least as much as August and Everything After. Some other things that we didn't talk about in that video. One of, if not my favorite Rush album, is Permanent Waves. And of course, they followed that with Moving Pictures, which is probably the general public's favorite Rush album. We talked about the debut Cars record in the debut video, and Candy-O doesn't get talked about a lot. It doesn't have the big radio hits that the debut has, but it's a really good album, start to finish, a lot of great songs. So I'd put that on my list. Day at the Races, following A Night at the Opera, I think is another great follow-up record that probably doesn't get as much love as it deserves, but it's really good as well.
Jason mentioned Day at the Races after Night at the Opera, but I think Sheer Heart Attack to Night at the Opera is even better of an example. And then I have Rumors coming after Fleetwood Mac, which was kind of the rebirth of Fleetwood Mac, and then they follow that up with the massive, gigantic Rumors. Go with In Utero after Nevermind. The Bends after Pablo Honey, or you could say the Bends was their breakout and go OK Computer. That's either one works.
And then you could go Kid A following OK Computer.
You could. I wouldn't, but you could. Second Helping after pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd. Countdown to Ecstasy after Can't Buy a Thrill. And let's go with Wish You Were Here after Dark Side of the Moon. And you could probably follow that up a couple times.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. That's probably the best example for Pink Floyd, but there's just so many. But I'll cut it off there.
First one I thought of, you mentioned, because I think I'm the only one that prefers this. In Utero, I actually like more than Nevermind, and I love them both. But there's some about In Utero I just kind of dig. And the same era, I think Versus by Pearl Jam doesn't get enough love. Everyone always thinks 10, but Versus is great too. How about Bad by Michael Jackson? I think Bad is criminally underrated. I mean, Thriller is Thriller, but Bad is pretty great. I'm going to go with Hysteria after Pyromania for Def Leppard, I think is a good one. If you're going to say that the Rolling Stones were already huge, but I think they kind of got a more broad appeal when they did Let It Bleed, and they were kind of in that. But then they did Sticky Fingers. Then they did Exile. I mean, that's a hell of a back-to-back. Jason cut off Rush too short. I love Signals, and coming right after Moving Pictures, I think, is a big deal. And then I'm going to go with After the Gold Rush being pretty hard to follow up, but he came out with Harvest, which may be better. I don't know. I do know which one I like more, but we're going to save it for an eventual Neil Young discography. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, and especially when you're just getting into the 70s and the 60s and 70s, there's a lot of follow-ups. But I do think we were just talking off the air about albums that just tanked after critically acclaimed things or bad sophomore efforts. We'll eventually get to those lists. But I do think when, especially you get that first big album that is critically loved, everyone expects kind of the same thing after that. not just in quality, but like you just want it again. So it's really interesting when you get something different and it's really good, which is kind of what I thought Bruce did with Tunnel of Love. There's so many. I mean, just flood the comments with all of these ones. They're fun to talk about, but it's got to be tough to follow up when you're dying for just the appraisal and the attention. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's it. What do you got next?" It's like, "Oh shit, what do I have next?" But that's the mark of a good artist.
All right, guys. Well, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you've been watching our videos and enjoying them, helps us out a lot if you subscribe, and doesn't cost anything. It just makes our videos easier for you to find. So it's a win-win. And hit the bell so that you get the notifications when the new videos come out. And we will see you next time. We're going to be dropping the 1977 video this week. So stay tuned for that.